Now that we're heading back into the office, don't let old bad habits creep back into your workaday. We've got some helpful advice to avoid the office drama. Joining us is Damali Peterman, conflict resolution expert and founder of BreakthroughADR. Good to see you.
Hi, Layla. It's great to see you.
Yeah, so it's a little strange, having to come back into the office and just reacclimating ourselves. So the first thing I think that people just tend to find it very difficult to avoid temptation, right? So how do you avoid getting into gossip and creating drama at the workplace?
Well, I think for those of us who are going back to the office for the first time after an extended period of time, or even just after a short vacation, right? I think the first way to avoid temptation and jumping back into old habits is to see the office environment as a totally new environment. Expect the unexpected and sort of forget what you knew about the office the way it used to work beforehand, because people may be different, things may be different. Perhaps some people's lives have changed over the last 18 months. And so, we just have to go back with an open mind, fresh perspective, and avoid gossip as much as possible.
Yeah. So you say expect the unexpected. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that, again, so many things have sort of changed in the world. Even perhaps the way that business has been conducted over the past several months have changed. And so I think kind of sticking your heels in and going back to the way things were may be not the best approach, given that during these times, we have to be a little bit more flexible and adaptable. And if you're going back to work, I mean, that's already one great thing, right? Because we do know that many companies had to sort of, shutter their doors over the past several months as well.
And the good thing is that now people are coming back together. So we're having more of the human connection, but that also means respecting what other people have to say. So of course, conversation's going to come up, water cooler talk and so forth. So when you say respect what the other person is saying or someone else's perspective, how do you do that in a diplomatic way?
Certainly. Well, I think we've all sort of been conditioned to think that we have to agree with everything that's being said. And I want to make sure that people know that we don't have to agree with what the person is saying. You should listen with the purpose of understanding their perspective and where they're coming from. And even ask yourself, well, why do they have this point of view? Does it impact their identity, their emotion, or their power? And while you're listening attentively, you sort of have to tune into their emotions, right? Look at their body language, kind of understand what they're trying to say non-verbally, and allow them to lead you to where they want to go. And usually in a conversation, we are trying to steer the conversation either consciously or, subconsciously. But I think going back and trying to value and respect someone else's perspective requires more listening and less talking.
Mm-hmm. And I think by that same token, you don't want to impose your own school of thought on things. So you might want to bite your tongue here and there. Incorporating empathy. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy. What are those differences?
I'm so happy you said that. So usually when you're empathizing, you're sort of acknowledging how someone feels, and you feel the way that they feel. So you're sort of sharing their feelings. Whereas when you're sympathizing, you're kind of saying, you must feel this way, and I feel sorry for you feeling this way. And empathy is what we really want to focus on. And there's a lot of research, especially from the realm of unconscious bias, that suggests that people, when they're listening, they only offer empathy if they have been through what the person is talking about, or they know someone has been through a similar experience. And so what I want people to think about is, not saying, I understand where you're coming from because this happened to me or this person in my life, but I want you to show that you understand by, instead of saying, finding that similarity, saying, you know what, it sounds like that was very difficult for you, and tell me more about that. So essentially connecting with them and now allowing them to steer the conversation and empathize with what they're saying.
Absolutely, being that sounding board. And conflict is inevitable, right? So
Yes.
How do you separate the person from the problem?
Usually a lot of workplace conflicts have about two or so foundational elements. And the way to separate that is to think about it as there are the people who are involved in the conflict, and there's the problem that those people seek to address. And so in order to really effectively resolve a conflict, you have to separate the person from the problem. Oftentimes there is some behavior that someone doesn't like, and they conflate that with the person. And one way to do that is to be aware of it. Do I have a problem with the way that that Peggy is doing something? Do I have an issue with Peggy? And typically it's with the way someone is doing something, an action or behavior.
If you feel ill-equipped to handle these things, you want to hire a professional such as yourself, Damali. I want to thank you so much for going to give your information for anybody who's watching this who needs your services and your expertise. Thank you so much for those great tips. Excellent advice.
Thank you, Layla. Have a great day.
You too. We're back after this.